Hey, welcome to Vance Tried It. Today we're going to be making some salsa. And so we're going to start off by roasting our vegetables, mostly our tomatoes. And keep this parchment paper on here. So we're just going to spread those tomatoes out there. And we're going to put in there with those tomatoes our peppers. We have jalapenos and then some red peppers. And the people who gave me those peppers said they weren't sure what kind of peppers they were because all of their little signs they put in their garden had gotten blown away. So I think maybe they're ancho peppers. And then we're just going to take this and we're going to drizzle just a little bit of olive oil across here, like that. And we're going to add to that some salt and some pepper. And I have my oven heated to 400 degrees. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to put these in here for about 10 to 12 minutes. And we'll go from there. Let me get this stuff out of the way here. Because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to heat up our aromatics. So we're going to put this on a pretty low temperature. And we're not going to put any oil or anything in here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take, we have a half a teaspoon of chili powder, a quarter teaspoon of cumin, and about a half a teaspoon of our secret ingredient. And this is really the key ingredient to making a good salsa. And that is some chicken bouillon, or you can use beef bouillon, either one. But it's really going to add a lot of good flavor. And we're just going to put that in there. We're going to let that start to heat up. And really, what we're doing is we're letting the oils release in all of this. That's really what we're doing in the oven also when we're roasting these tomatoes and peppers and onions. We're just letting those oils release from there and really get active. Same thing with spices. Our aromatics is we're letting them get heated up, and after it gets heated up and gets going a little bit, turn that up just a little bit, then we will add our garlic in there with it and let our garlic actually begin to toast up. So one thing I noticed as I started doing some research into making this salsa is online, you're going to find a lot of people who tell you they're making salsa. They're not making salsa, okay? They're making pico de gallo. Now, what's the difference? In a salsa, the tomatoes, at least, are liquefied. The other stuff, probably not as going to be liquefied, but the tomatoes are pretty much liquefied, which is really one of the key reasons we're going to put the tomatoes in here, other than letting the oils release in those peppers and onions, is we want the skin to really be softened up so it will liquefy with the tomatoes. The other option is we could blanch the tomatoes and take the skin off. But what we're doing is we're going to really, this is smelling so good. If you have never heated up your aromatics, your spices, I'm telling you, the smell is amazing. You can really start to smell those oils releasing. But we want to soften up those skins so that when we put them in the blender, they're going to liquefy. So that has started to heat up, and now what we're going to take is a healthy teaspoon of garlic. Now you can use fresh garlic, and probably it'll taste better with fresh garlic. But I've just gotten to the point where I just keep some of this minced garlic around with me in the house pretty much all the time. and that's what I use for most things. We're just going to start to stir this around a little bit. And because we're on a low temperature, we're not really concerned too much that it's going to burn, because you don't want it so hot that you're going to burn your spices, because you can burn your spices when you're trying to heat them up like this. So we just want to keep it nice and low. Just let those oils release. Let the garlic toast up just a little bit. We're going to do that. And let me get rid of some of this stuff over here. Once all of our vegetables are done roasting and we have kind of sweated off, heated up our spices and our garlic, we're going to take the tomatoes, we're going to put them in the blender, we're going to blend the tomatoes up, we're going to liquefy them, and then we're going to chop up the other stuff, because we don't necessarily want to liquefy our onions and our peppers. We just want the tomatoes liquefied, and then we're going to chop up, and you can decide how thin or thick or big you want your pieces of the other stuff. But we're going to put that all together, and we're going to have us some homemade salsa. So I will get back to you once all of our vegetables are done roasting and our aromatics are done sweating off, and we will look at our next step. So I'll see you here in about another 7 minutes. Okay, so I actually ended up leaving the veggies in the oven for closer to 20 minutes just because there was so much vegetables on there. But they're starting to smell really good. I'm going to go ahead and take them out of the oven and get started on the tomatoes. So let me turn this off. Ooh. There we go. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all of our tomatoes over here. Now the tomatoes I used were some vegetable or some garden tomatoes that were given to me, but I did not have enough of those, so I supplemented those with Roma tomatoes. And when you pull these up, you will be able to tell that that skin is really soft. Cool. Just had something fall over there, but it's all right. The counter caught it. Let's just go ahead. Try to get all of the tomatoes going at once, if we can. Big order. Let's see if we can do it. I may have to pull some of these out of here and go from there. But we're just going to see what happens if I put them all in there at once. They will fit, but we'll see if they will blend up very well all in there together. So what we're going to do is we're going to blend these up. We're going to start off on the low, and we're just going to work our way up. And like I said, what we're trying to do is we're trying to liquefy these tomatoes. So here we go. this off of here. See how we're doing. You know, that is exactly what we're looking for. It's not completely liquefied, but it is really what we're looking for. There's still a little bit of substance to the tomatoes, but for the most part they are liquefied. That did not take long at all. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put those all in this pot right here. Just pour it in here. There we go. And now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to chop up. Set that back a little bit. We're going to need to chop up. I use this to chop up our herbs, but I rinsed it out. So if it looks like it's not clean, it is not completely clean, but it was before I did our herbs. And so it's all just has a little bit of remains of that in there. So we're going to just do this. Like I was saying earlier, you just make a mess here. Just decide how big of pieces you want. Guess that's how big of pieces I wanted. Good thing I had a clean counter. So we're going to start just putting our veggies in here. And so when I get all of this the rest of the way chopped up, I will get back to you with the next step. Okay, so we have all of our veggies chopped up and in the bath right here. And so we just have a couple more things to do here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take all this juiciness that came from roasting our veggies. Add that in here. Don't want to leave any flavor unaccounted for. Now, what I have here is a whole batch, probably about a quarter of a cup of chopped parsley. Now, traditionally, the herb that people put in salsa is cilantro. But parsley is actually like a kissing cousin of cilantro. Or it's kind of like, think of it like this. You remember in high school, there was those two sisters, and one of them was wild and crazy, and the other one was just like really sweet. And at some point you realized, you know what? I may want to go out on a date with the wild crazy sister, but I want to marry the sweet one. That's kind of like the relationship between cilantro and parsley. Parsley is the same family as cilantro, but it's milder. And I think it works so much better than cilantro. So, look, if you like cilantro, go for it. But if you just want that fresh flavor in your salsa, but you're not a big fan of cilantro, try using some fresh parsley up in there. You just take the leaves off of it, and you chop it up and you put it in there. And if you don't want to mess with that, you can get it fresh parsley already all chopped up and without the stems in it. but it's going to cost you about twice as much as if you just do it yourself. And now we're going to take all of these aromatics that we had over there. We're going to put them in the swimming pool right here. Get that all in there. So, you might be saying, Vance, okay, if I'm going to be doing my aromatics like that, how do I know when they've gone far enough? And the first instant that you start to see some whiffs of smoke coming out of it, take it off the heat. Stir it up really good, take it off the heat, because if you leave it in there much longer, it's going to start to burn, and you don't want that. Now, we're going to put some more salt in here. We're going to put some more pepper in here. We're going to put some lime juice in here. Just take one lime, squeeze it in there, just like that. Here's the other half. And you can use a juicer, or you can just use your fingers and squeeze some of that lime in there. And then, there's another secret ingredient that you don't want to miss. Just a little bit of sugar. You don't need a whole lot, but you need a little bit of sugar in there to cut some of the bitterness. And now, we're going to stir this up. Make sure it is all well mixed together. All the spices. Whew! I am making a mess here. Y'all want to be a little bit more careful than me. In fact, I'm going to stop using this. Let's see if I can clean myself up a little bit here. Grab a paper towel. Yeah, you know what I say. If you're not making a mess, you're not cooking. Because we can always clean it up, including your clothes. That's what the washing machine is for. But I'm going to, instead of using that spatula, I'm going to use this whisk here. And also, you might find, let's see, like this. Some big chunks of stuff that you were trying to chop up. It's alright. You can just pull them out of there. It won't hurt anything. Now, what we got to do now is we got to give it a taste. Make sure I get some really good stuff in here. So let's see what it tastes like. Yeah, that is a really flavorful salsa. It has a lot of heat, but I wanted mine pretty hot. How much peppers did I use? I don't know. Some people gave me some peppers out of their garden. I used everything I had to put in there. I would say, as a good general rule, if you want a more medium type salsa, use like one jalapeno to one medium-sized tomato. That's going to give you a pretty good medium-sized heat to medium to mild. But if you want it hotter, just add more peppers. It's really simple. Add hotter peppers. You can make this as jalapenos. You can make this with habanero, whatever pepper you want to use. But now that it's made, now it comes time for your final decision. Because you can eat it just like this. This is what we would call fresh salsa. Fresh salsa is going to have a refrigerator life of days. So you can put it in whatever container, you can put it in the refrigerator, 3-4 days. That's really going to be your life. Otherwise, it's going to start to run the chance of collecting mold and stuff like that. So that's this. Now, if you go ahead and heat this up to a rolling boil, so just a slow boil, let that boil off a little bit. You want to add some sort of liquid to it. You can add water. You can add more chicken stock. You can add some beer. You can add some wine to give it some different flavor. But let it boil off and then put it in a sanitized container. That's going to give you a shelf life of, instead of days, weeks, maybe even a month or more in the refrigerator. Now, your third option, if you want a longer shelf life, is you can can it. That's going to give you an actual shelf life instead of a refrigerator life of months. You might even put it on your shelf. In fact, depending on how much salsa you use at once, you might decide to can it in smaller jars or bigger jars. But that is certainly an option. In fact, if y'all want to see me do a video about canning, just let me know down in the comments and I'll do a video where I do some canning. And hey, while you're down there, would you please go ahead and like and subscribe and share this video? Because the more you interact with this video, the more people are going to see this and learn how to make some delicious food. Hey, this is a really good salsa, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some of this, because I have some family coming this weekend. I'm going to take some of this and put it in a container, and I'm just going to leave it as fresh salsa, ready to eat right now. And then some of it, I'm going to go ahead and boil off a little bit, heat it up, put it in a sanitized container, and that way it will stay in the refrigerator for a little bit longer, and I won't have to get it all eaten right away. But hey, I tried it. You should too.